So I want to talk to you today about adventures in computational modeling for syntactic acquisition, taking a look at syntactic islands. And this is me. I'm Lisa Pearl from the University of California at Irvine, where I run the Computation of Language Laboratory, COLA Lab, and I'm a professor in the Department of Language Science there. Now, here's a question. What's a computational model of acquisition exactly? And one answer that I've given recently in a book chapter I wrote about this question is that a computational model is the embodiment of a specific theory about acquisition. So, of course, you need to first have a theory about how acquisition works. Then, the model can be used to make all the components of that acquisition theory explicit and evaluate whether the theory actually works or doesn't work. And how do we do that exactly? Well, one way is that the model is going to generate predictions, say about children's behavior. And we can compare the model's predictions against empirical data we actually have from kids. We can evaluate whether the theory actually works or not. And if the predictions match, it works. If they don't match, then it doesn't. That's the basic idea. And we can then determine precisely what makes the theory work or not work, as the case may be. And the benefit of modeling is that looking inside a model that implements a theory like this is easier than looking inside a real child's mind and making sense of it. But an informative model, one that's built to be cognitively plausible, that's meant to capture the important parts of the acquisition process, is informative. An informative model ideally allows us to understand what's going on inside a child's mind. So how do we build them? Well, one way is we can use quantitative techniques, that is techniques using numbers, math, right, to implement a computational model. And so one main part is counting things, right? And sometimes we count a lot of things, right? But counting things is one big part. Another big part is principled reasoning based on those counts. What do you do with those counts to update your hypotheses? And one way I like to use is something called Bayesian inference, where you take account of both your prior belief in whatever hypothesis as well as how well that hypothesis kind of fits the current data you've seen so far. But there are different ways to use those counts, and the important thing is to have some sort of principled way to reason about the information those counts give you. And so we think the child is learning by counting different parts of her input and reasoning over those counts in a sensible way. So the model is also going to count those same things and learn about language by doing principled reasoning over those counts. So this counting and reasoning is typically what a good chunk of the theory of acquisition is about. In particular, counting what and reasoning how, right? So we build the model according to what the theory specifies, counting what, reasoning how, in order to evaluate it. And modeling results can then help us refine our theory. So today, I want to do this on a case study that I've been working on for a while about the acquisition of complex syntactic knowledge, sometimes known as syntactic islands. And the first part, we're just going to talk a little bit about syntactic islands and what we know right now about their acquisition in kids. Part 2 is I want to tell you about evaluating a theory of acquisition for English that assumes certain building blocks are involved. And part 3 is going to be evaluating this theory when there's dialectal variation in children's input. And then part 4 is going to be evaluating a variant of this theory where the child actually learns what the building blocks are first.